Welcome guys, yes, we're here in the next episode and we're covering the League of Order. So if you are looking for the League of Order lore story and how this faction came into light, well, smash like, comment and subscribe because we've been doing this all the time over the Christmas period, and we're trying to make this honestly like a 5-episode docu-series, kind of small, like, you know, Road to Glory, little documentary kind of thing for you guys to enjoy over the period of time, because obviously the story really isn't going to change. So strap yourselves in, grab your popcorn. We've done all the info, we've got all the information we need, we've done all the grinding, and we've got obviously the cinematics ready. So with all of that, let's get into the League of Order story. So as we know of the Spring Warden story, and now the Celestials and the beginning of time, let's now go into one of the community favourite factions again, the League of Order. Since honestly their story gives me such Game of Thrones vibes, so strap yourself in, get your popcorn, get your black coats on, and pretend that you are Jon Snow, because this is gonna be one of those stories that you might enjoy compared to the Spring Wardens one. The early days of the human life actually began, funnily enough, in Agoru, and we actually see this from the first monument built by the human civilization, the Forerunners Monument. This was built when the first ever humans witnessed this divine event, which we know now as, from the earlier episodes, as the conflagration event, or when the comets were falling from the sky. So we can fast forward 10 years from the year 0, and we see the humans start to separate, which is a bit weird. The humans separate into 7 smaller clans or kingdoms that actually represent or value a different aspect of what they believe was the god of light, Leosa. And this time period, as I was mentioning earlier, was when all 7 kingdoms worked together to actually build that Forerunners Monument that is located in Agoru. So the humans actually just continued, as you imagine, like we did, and plodded along for the next few years, and they would continue on their path to expand like any of the other races of civilization. But we need to get to the year 400, because the year 400 was a very important year, firstly for the humans, because this was the first major event where the 7 different clans would now unify into one giant kingdom that they first named the Heptarchy. Once forces under this rule would be one ruler serves all 7 kingdoms. Sounds very familiar to Game of Thrones, how we have different kingdoms and one kingdom to rule them all. You see where we're going with this? However though, this actually first in history for the humans seemed to have worked, and there wasn't that many problems. However, we now need to move towards the year 700. Because when we get to the year 700, this is when we start to see, obviously, the Heptarchy start to form disagreements, and there's actually friction on who should be in control of, obviously, the Heptarchy and all of the 7 clans of the humans organization. So we're in the year 700, and this year is named, as you could imagine, the Year of the Nobles. And this is when, honestly, the first ever house names appear in the League of Order's history. We have Tyr, that is from the House of Aiden. And we can see other houses like House Riven, as well as even House Solan, all there and present in their full glory. Tyr of House Aiden goes on an adventure though, and during this time he would actually discover White Wing Peak, And if you've been following the series, you will know White Wing Peak is the birthplace of the Celestials and obviously the Angels. And during this time, he stumbles upon the birthplace and comes into contact with with no other, Atheist and Fear. This is where he actually explains what House Aiden represents and how the humans believed in Leosa and the God of Light, and obviously equality and respect. And with this exchange, he asked for help from Atheist and Fear to obviously guide them into victory and to follow the law of Leosa. And with this, Atheist and Fear obviously thought about it, but then eternally would agree to this agreement. And then they would start to march towards back the capital. A year passes as they return, and as terms were being discussed with House Riven and House Aiden, a massive fight actually erupts between the two houses. And here, House Riven actually comes out on top. And this was weird because this was a false king that some people would surmise in the old human law. And this was because through tradition, the Heptarchy would obviously vote for the guy who would rule the kingship of the land. However, the House Riven would just take it by force. And by taking it by force, they were slapping, obviously, all of the respect and the laws of the land in their face. So what was going to happen next would, imagine, and probably shock all of you. From here, House Riven would obviously rule for quite a while. But the human actual history doesn't just stop there, because as you guys know, the League of Order isn't just humans. And during this time period, random moments of history would divide into moments of actually equality. So if you look at some of the halflings that you might guys know as Nico or Nika, the brother and sister, originally they didn't actually have many rights as a people, which is kind of sad to say among the human race. And in the year 790, the actual halflings separated themselves from the humans and built their own home in the Burning Lands, which is really cool to see. And then later on, in the year 867, the Halfling League was actually created and founded, giving and protecting the rights of those little halflings, which was a really cool little side segment, I think, in human history. And obviously the League of Order's history is very important because the League of Order is made up of halflings and humans together as one faction. As time passes, there's always going to be conflicts between humans and orcs and obviously the elves, but we're going to cover that obviously in its own episode, and you're going to be very, very lovely jubbly when we see the war territory and how it actually used to look like compared to now. But in the year 1164, things were actually about to change for the League of Order, because the humans at this moment was obviously known as an Heptarchy still, and were under rule by the House Riven. And this was all done through tyranny and obviously a conquest act, which wasn't in favour of the Heptarchy values. So, what was going to turn? Well, the orcs during this time were expanding and forcing humans to actually relocate and destroying one of the second monuments in history, which is the Forerunners Abbey. And King Victor during this time had enough, and he had a full amount of army turn up at his door with the angels, as you can imagine, Avius and Fear on his side. And King Victor of House Remus would walk into the Yargand Royal Court and put Elson Riven, the current leader and the king of the falsehood, to his knees and point his sword and declare him now the new king of the Heptarchy. And House Riven and Elson Riven surrendered. And just like that, the House Remus got the whole kingdom back together and unified the Jagd city, which is very important because of this. Without any of this happening, you guys in League of Order will not have had those celestial units by your side, which is very crazy to think about, that you might not have had that because of the story in the League of Order. And then it becomes the year 1177. And in the year 1177, King Victor, unfortunately, would fall sick. Yeah, we all do it. We all get the flu every day. However, King Victor would not recover from this flu. And with that, he would pass away. And his son, Prince Cyrus, would take reigns and would continue rule, and still is the ruler of the whole kingdom of the Jagd city. And that is how then Prince Cyrus changes the name from the Heptarchy into the League of Order. And that is why we have all the history of the humans laid out. Because as you can imagine, it might not sound maybe as good as the others, but the way this whole story is laid out, and you can read up on it if you look into Season 1 Codex, it is a very Game of Thrones style, where all of these different houses were fighting for control against each other at first, and then it became the Game of Thrones. Who could control the throne and control everyone else in this political power? And it was obviously over a tyrannical act, and then the correct king coming over and returning back to reclaim their rightful throne. So it is honestly a really cool story, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and I do hope I've done it justice. I do apologize. I'm trying my best, as you can see here, to learn how to storytell and write scripts for you guys and make these style of videos for the future. And with all of that, if you've enjoyed it, smash like, comment and subscribe again, guys. This is the end of the video, and we have done now the beginning of the time, if you want to say, of Tamaris with the Celestials and the God of Light and God of Darkness. We've covered the Spring Wardens faction and now the League of Order. So you can imagine those orc boys that were ready to smoke away. Yes, I haven't forgotten you guys. You're going to be next, the Wilderberg. And I'm not going to lie, I love the Wilderberg's story the most. It's the one I feel the most at home with. So when we get to that, I know you guys are going to enjoy it. So if you have, remember, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. You will get notified when the next Lord video comes out. And with all of that, stay safe, stay sneaky, guys, and enjoy the Christmas period.